Okay, and welcome one and all. Hello, my name is David Pstansky, and welcome to the Mega Movie Podcast here from Extreme Improv Extremed on extremed.tv. So, today we're going to get straight into it. Andrew Garfield has said he is not involved in the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home movie, and I don't believe it for a second. I don't think most people believe it for a second. If anyone has seen the article which I just shared a few minutes ago at time of recording over on extreme.tv, you will see that I have painted a picture of lots of evidence for why Andrew Garfield is in fact involved in Spider-Man No Way Home. But why would Andrew Garfield lie like this? We've seen things where actors or movie studios have tried to pull one over the audience's eyes, and they've kind of got a big old backlash in their faces for doing so. Most famously, I think, was when Benedict Cumberbatch, who is Doctor Strange in the MCU, was playing Khan in the sequel to Star Trek, the reboot of Star Trek Into Darkness. And they said that he wasn't playing Khan, and then it turned out he was playing Khan, and everyone was like, well, we knew he was playing Khan. But this isn't quite the same with that, because we knew in that instance that Benedict Cumberbatch was in the movie. So just revealing the name of his character, if they wanted to keep it under wraps, then, you know, they could do it. Was it a big reveal to say that, oh, it is Khan? Who knows? But in this instance, it's a little bit different, because Andrew Garfield obviously was the Amazing Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man films. Tobey Maguire was the original Spider-Man on the big screen, and the current Spider-Man is Tom Holland. There isn't a precedent for old actors to come back like this, and especially not to be in the same film as the current stars. So for them to be doing this is kind of a big deal. And if they let the cat out of the bag now, many months before it actually comes to pass, then some of the hype of that might go down, because even though people won't have seen the film yet, people will just become used to the fact that, so all the Spider-Men are going to be together. And we're already very aware of that. That is what everything points to is going to happen. But keeping people guessing, keeping people saying, yeah, I know this is going to be the case, I know it's going to be the case, up until they announce it maybe in a couple of months' time, July. They can keep it under wraps until a little bit later than that. They probably won't, just because there'll be action figures and things like this that start getting revealed, and it'll be like, yeah, so here's a different Spider-Man, here's all three Spider-Men in a pack together that you can buy action figures of, here's a Funko Pop, and it will give it all away. But if they can keep it under wraps just a couple of months more, then they can start the hype train, and it's always better for a movie studio to put out the message under their own steam rather than it just gets spoiled. I fully believe that spoilers do actually ruin your experience. So what's an actor to do? It's not about Benedict Cumberbatch playing Khan and what's the name of his character. It's about just letting it out that this actor, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, are involved in this film. Their very involvement is a spoiler. But let's go over the various bits of evidence. So first of all, we're going to start with the evidence for why Andrew Garfield is not in Spider-Man No Way Home. And the first biggest piece of evidence is himself. He has said that he is not in the film, and this came in an interview. Josh Horowitz on Twitter, I don't know the chap beyond this story, but he apparently runs something called the Happy Sad Confused podcast, and he was interviewing Andrew Garfield, who asked him straight out, are you involved? Andrew Garfield cut him off and said, look, I'm not involved in No Way Home, but he didn't say it as specific as that. And he ended up speaking about the social deduction game Werewolf or Mafia, which anyone who knows Extreme Improv and the Extreme.tv website will know that we do a show based on this every Friday at 8 PM UK time, currently in its third iteration, Revenge of the Ripper. Enough of that plug though, do check it out. And the way it works is that one person is a werewolf, everyone else has to work out who it is. And he's just like, oh yeah, so it's me saying I'm not the werewolf when, everyone thinks I'm the werewolf, but I'm not the werewolf. And it's so interesting him giving that comparison, because obviously in Werewolf, in Mafia, you have to say you're not the werewolf even if you are, and you have to keep doing it. And I truly believe him saying this and comparing it to Werewolf is the way later on he'll say, well, yeah, when you play Werewolf, no matter what, until, it's actually revealed if you're the werewolf or not, you have to keep denying it. And so for him, that's probably some sort of peace of mind or something that someone's compared it to. Because I should imagine that some of these actors, even though they're probably getting millions of dollars to do it, so boohoo for them, it's such a hard life. Not. They probably do feel like, yeah, but are people going to hate me? Are people going to feel that I've lied to them? Or my fan base going to, give a backlash and turn against me because I wasn't honest with them? And he'll just say, well, look, it's the movie industry. There is an element to it where we have to play this game, and oh my god, you guys gave me a really good game of Werewolf. I think that's the case. But the biggest evidence for why he's not in the film is he says he's not in the film, and we could take him on his word. Later on, if it turns out that he is in the film, then we'll never take him on his word again, and that's part of the price you pay. The other evidence comes from WandaVision. Now, in WandaVision, we had Pietro. We had the X-Men version of Pietro, and there was a scene for people noticed who had the audio description for the blind on, where they said, and now, or maybe it was the subtitles, but either way, it said, and now the X-Men version of Pietro turns up. And everyone's like, well, that's official, that's the audio description or the subtitles implemented by Disney on Disney Plus, saying and referring to Pietro as the X-Men version, so that made it in universe. Except for it wasn't quite in universe, because this is just something a company does to make the accessibility work. And then, as we saw, he ended up being Ralph Bohner and not the actual Pietro from the X-Men universe. Wasn't Peter Maximoff, he was not Pietro Maximoff, he was Ralph Bohner. And because it was Ralph Bohner, it then debunked the idea that he was the X-Men version of Pietro, meaning that the audio description for the blind was in fact incorrect, which goes to show you that these rumours may just be rumours, because even if something heavily points in this direction, there is an example of where we had confirmation from an official Disney source, that being the audio description, and then it turned out to be inaccurate. Now, maybe Disney were aware, or maybe, and certainly after that, they will be aware that, well, look, we can do these little things, and everyone is going to play detective, and all the fan base are going to try and figure out what's about to happen. We can give them red herrings. We can send them astray, and that's exactly what they did there, whether it was intentional or not. So that is, off the top of my head, the only evidence I've got for why he may not be in this film. But the evidence for why he will be in this film, let's go back as far as Spider-Man Far From Home, which was the last MCU Spider-Man film. Obviously, with Mysterio in it, the story dealt a lot with the multiverse, but then it turned out Mysterio was lying about coming from a parallel dimension, and he was from our dimension. And it's just, that's something that's never quite sat right with me, because it means that it was just coincidental, and then the multiverse is real. Because there is even a bit in it where Peter says, what, the multiverse is real? And it's like, well, yes, it is, but this is just a coincidence that this supervillain just made up that there was a multiverse, and it's going to turn out one movie later that Spider-Man will meet the multiverse. The second piece of evidence from that same film was that we got J.K. Simmons playing J. Jonah Jameson in the post-credits scene. Obviously, J.K. Simmons played that same character in the Tobey Maguire movies, and at the time they said, well, for us, he was the only person that was ever J. Jonah Jameson, so we were very lucky to be able to cast him in this role again, and he's a new version of the character, which clearly he is. Or is he just this character 10 or 15 years later? Now, at this stage, there is no way to tell if he is the same character or if he's an alternative version. Probably that he's an alternative version because he happened to be in Tom Holland's Spider-Man's universe. But it doesn't mean that we won't see the Tobey Maguire version in this next film, if Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is in fact in it. Now, other than that, we then have to look to the fact that the next Doctor Strange film is called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this could be a troll again, but I very much doubt it. And we found out today that WandaVision originally was going to feature Doctor Strange in it, and Doctor Strange was going to be the person sending a message to Wanda by sending these dark, twisted commercials, but then they decided not to upstage Wanda by including Doctor Strange, and so they'll deal with the multiverse when they get to him. But clearly including Pietro, Evan Peters' version of Peter Maximoff in it was, again, teasing, trolling, whatever you want to call it, playing into the multiverse. And it was the multiverse, even if they tried to snatch it away from us at the end by saying he is just Ralph Boner. We did get the X-Men version of Pietro in it by the fact that Evan Peters played the character. He had the same powers, and that can't really be explained with the Agatha Harkness magic, I don't believe. So it probably was him, and we'll find that out later on. Or they'll just have to explain it and bring him back, and then we don't know. I don't know how they'll explain bringing him back, but they'll probably have to bring him back. But what was the other evidence that we've got? So, Into the Spider-Verse, released by Sony, and I think this may have been the inspiration and catalyst for all of this, because they released the wildly successful Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from Sony, and it had parallel dimensions, and it had alternative versions of Spider-Man. I do apologise, it is 1:15 and I'm just recording this because it's important, so I'm just struggling to gather my thoughts and yawning a little bit, as I often do when I do these late night podcasts, but stick with me here because we'll get through it together. It's like one of those ASMR videos, so I'm speaking softly and helping you drift off to sleep. So just think, Ralph Boner. Anyway, so Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It had alternative versions of Peter Parker and alternative versions of Spider-Man, whether it was Spider-Ham or Penny Parker or Spider-Gwen or different versions of Peter Parker or Miles Morales. And they said after this film came out that, there was the idea of, could we bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield for a cameo? And they were like, well, maybe in the sequel, it doesn't feel right to do it here. And what about Tom Holland being involved? Well, maybe in a sequel. Then that film was wildly successful. Everyone said, yeah, we'd have loved all of the Spider-Men to get together. And then probably Marvel or Sony or both said, well, let's just do that in live action. So God knows what they'll do on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2. I should imagine they'll have to have all of the previous Spider-Men come and join in, otherwise it will seem a bit of a letdown, and everyone will know that the live action films stole the live action actors away from Spider-Verse. Or it might just be that, look, we get them on live action and then the Spider-Verse will have lots of other alternative versions of Spider-Man. What will be truly interesting to see if Spider-Man No Way Home has any reference to connect it to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, just because imagine if we get Miles Morales, imagine if we were to get something that just suggested Spider-Ham in particular because it's so weird, or Spider-Man Noir. But the Spider-Verse, it means that, look, they're dabbling, they're toying Spider-Man, alternative versions of Spider-Man. It's already happened. There's a whole film about it. And so it's definitely going to happen. But that's still not all, because Alfred Molina, who played Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2, has said in an interview, yes, I'm not quite as young as I was back then, I don't have the same physical frame, can't do the same kind of stunts, but look, actually, I don't really do that many stunts, it's mostly CGI, and so he did play Dr. Octopus again. It was confirmed ages and ages ago now, months and months and months, that Jamie Foxx would be back as a new version, or maybe the past version of Electro. So if they've got J. Jonah Jameson back, J.K. Simmons, if they've got Jamie Foxx back as Electro, and if they've got Alfred Molina back as Dr. Octopus, why on earth would they do all of this and not think to bring back Peter Parker, played by Andrew Garfield, or by Tobey Maguire, or more likely than anything, both of them? Of course they're going to bring back both. And it will just be this huge deal. It's going to be the biggest Christmas film this year, obviously, because it's coming out, I think, 17th of December. And Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, now, there was rumours saying that, oh yeah, they're just kind of in it as a cameo. And that might be true, and then it might be that Spider-Man 4 features all three of them teaming up in a big way. But realistically, I've heard stuff that then suggested that, well, Tobey Maguire wanted it to be a bigger role, and Tobey Maguire's in this more than Andrew Garfield, but they're all in it, and I think they should all be in it equally. You know, obviously it's still going to be the Tom Holland Spider-Man focused film, but the way I see it is, just when there was Captain America Civil War, and they were like, well, yeah, this is basically an Avengers film, because it's going to be Captain America fighting Iron Man, and it's also going to still have Bucky in it. It's still going to have whoever else were the other characters in it, Wanda, and it had the Vision, and they introduced Spider-Man in that film. In fact, they introduced Black Panther in that film. They said, yeah, but this is still a Captain America film. It's still, he is at the heart of it, the main character. In that same sense, this could still be the Tom Holland Spider-Man focused film, but they still can give a lot of screen time, just as they did to Iron Man and Black Panther, and still introduce Black Panther and Spider-Man in a really good way in Civil War. They can still reintroduce Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man into this. Now, obviously, this, you know, we're going to have Dr. Octopus and Electro, so it's got a couple of villains for these characters to contend with. Obviously, I think both these characters, definitely Dr. Octopus, died at the end, I believe, of Spider-Man 2. So will these be the exact same parallel dimensions, or will these be alternative Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's? Will these be alternative Dr. Octopus? No telling yet, but even if they are alternative, it's still going to be, oh well, this is the old Spider-Man. But they might take the approach of saying, well, it's Tobey Maguire, but he's not quite the same Spider-Man you saw before. But will we get Mary Jane Watson? Will we get Gwen Stacy? Because obviously Gwen Stacy died in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. There's a chance that maybe they'll bring in Kirsten Dunst, and then they won't bring in a love interest for Andrew Garfield. And that's especially if the Tobey Maguire one is going to be the more heavily featured, and that perhaps he's going to move into the mentor kind of role to replace the Tony Stark relationship with Tom Holland, to have the older Spider-Man. And how will they explain the age difference as well? I mean, Tobey Maguire kind of always, he's like Michael J. Fox, they always kind of look young, kind of like Elijah Wood, that even when they're 30, 40, 50, 60, they could still play a teenager. But anyway, so I am saying here and now that Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, I boldly predict, and it's not even that bold because all of the evidence points to it, will be in Spider-Man No Way Home. There may even be a piece of evidence or two that I've missed. If so, let me know in the comments, either on extreme.tv, so that's the new website for everything Extreme Improv, and with so much more than just improv shows nowadays, but www.extremed.tv, so that's xstreamed.tv. Do check that out. There's loads of articles, there's podcasts such as this one, the Mega Movie Podcast, loads of podcasts, Slam Jam Podcast, and the Games Monster Podcast, Geek Battle Show, streaming show, loads of stuff. Do check it out. The website, as I said, is extreme.tv, but the YouTube channel, where you'll be able to hear this and be able to watch tons of other videos, is www.youtube.com/extreme improv. So please be so kind to smash that subscribe button there. My name's David Pistansky. You can find me at David Pistansky on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And for now, stay safe, always stay extremed, and don't believe actors, because they're going to protect the stories, and that is okay.